Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. And parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/getstarted. That's GREENLIGHT.com/getstarted.
I can't believe you got Paul F. Tompkins to be on the show. It's amazing.
Seriously, way to go, Eli.
Super cool. He's gonna be totally great. Can't
right?
wait.
Yeah, what can I say? I guess he's a huge fan of the show.
Eli, this isn't the studio.
No, it's not.
A lot of buckets.
Where's Paul F. Tompkins?
Surprise!
Where is he?
God damn it, Eli. What did you do?
Okay, well, since the topic of this week's show was Jim Bakker.
No, it's pronounced Baker.
It's Baker. Yeah, I'm going to do that a lot.
Baker.
I'm going to need people to get used to it now.
Baker.
Anyways, since he's the topic of this week's show, I figure what better way to prepare for it than to lock us all in a bunker for a week so we can survive off his buckets.
Dude, seriously?
Oh,
God damn it!
Paul F.
Tompkins was on
hate you
Mr.
so
Show.
much.
I love Mr. Show. Think of the authenticity, guys, it's going to lend to the show. I mean, sure, anybody can talk shit about Jim Bakker.
Baker. It's an English word. I've heard you say baker. They make pastries.
But who can talk shit about him having survived for a week on this?
What
God.
is that smell?
Oh, I'm gonna.
Dude, did you poop in there?
Yeah, you're supposed to. He talks about it all the time on the infomercials, guys.
Horseman. Paul F. Tompkins is great.
You're supposed to poop in the buckets after you eat the food, you fucking monster. What is wrong with you?
Okay, that he was not clear about on the infomercials, in my defense.
Okay, yeah, but that is all we have to eat for the next week. God damn it.
It's supposed to last 30 days, so yeah.
He's also a really good stand-up. He's part of the original Largo crew, actually. Not a lot of people know that.
Heath,
such a good, talented
Paul F.
comedian.
Tompkins isn't coming.
No, Eli didn't say that. He said he locked us down here with food that he covered in his poop, but he didn't say that.
He's not coming.
Okay, well, now I'm also upset. What?
Now you're upset? You're upset?
I don't know. I'd eat some shit with Paul F. Tompkins for sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay, like you guys wouldn't. You wouldn't eat shit with Paul F. Tompkins. That's what you're saying right now. Just me. Best week ever. He's in best week ever.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts, because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm your host, Noah Illusions, and I'm going to be guiding you through this very difficult time, but don't worry, we're going to get through it together. You, me, your credit card, and the rest of the cast. First up, two men tormented by the fact that they're perpetually a conversion away from millionaires, Heath and Cecil.
Okay, try to be sad about your ethics in a private jet. It's fucking impossible. It's impossible.
I'll tell you what, I would fuck holy water for $1 million.
And also joining us tonight, two men who were eating food out of buckets before it was cool, Tom and Eli.
Okay, everything is a single serving if you finish it before they can take it away from you. That's a single serving.
Yeah, and everyone can cook food, but only I can rehydrate my
there you go.
proteins. So, yeah.
All right, so before we get started tonight, I want to remind you that Eli and Tom also know how much more money they could make if they found Jesus and converted to woo. And the only thing that really convinces them anymore is Patreon donations. So if you'd like to learn how to help keep them honest-ish, be sure to stick around to the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Eli, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Jim
Don't say Bakker.
Bakker.
No, Baker.
Yeah, the only reason I asked you specifically was because of that wonderful pronunciation, not how it's pronounced. Tom.
Yes.
You read at least as much about Jim Bakker as he's read of the Bible, or whatever miracle cure he's hawking this week. Are you ready to tell us his tale?
Oh, absolutely. I've got buckets of great information for you guys.
All right. So, why Jim Bakker?
Okay, so thing is, we live in a world now which is daily defined by hucksterism. From our politicians to social media, from lifestyle gurus to religious nuts, at every possible turn, we are confronted by powerful forces seeking to deprive us of our money, our agency, and our critical faculties. While the tools these frauds use have become vastly more powerful than ever before, many of the names and faces that have been fleecing us have stayed remarkably consistent. If you've listened to our sister shows, you'll doubtless know the name Jim Bakker.
As well as the non-named Jim Bakker. Yes.
I helped.
That's true, unfortunately. I used to think that he was just a rather pathetic kook, selling freeze-dried buckets of Armageddon slop to credulous rapture loons. But his story is so much more than that. Jim Bakker is...
That
is true. Yeah, it's not that. It's just that plus.
You're right. You're right.
It's that more. Jim Bakker is the very epitome of the bullshit artist, and his scams are bigger and much more vile than you may imagine.
Yeah, and I just want to say at the outset, before we begin, it's worth noting that, like, it's all well and good to talk about some poor rubes who got tricked into buying snake oil when everybody died of their teeth in 1442, but someone is ordering Jim Bakker's products right now on the internet. They have to scroll past the news results about what a fraud he is to buy his shit.
A lot. They do.
It's not wrong at all. So born in 1940 to Raleigh Baker and Fernia Lynette Irwin, James Orson Bakker began life not far from here, actually, in Muskegon, Michigan. I couldn't find much information about his parents or his childhood, but he went off to Bible college in Minnesota at a place called North Central University. While studying an old book full of Bronze Age myths about a vengeful blood god, Jim met and fell for the lovely and not at all cartoon clown made-up Tammy Faye LaValle. A year later, in 1961...
That means the Valley.
That does mean the Valley. Yes, thank you for the translation. A year later, in 1961, the two married and assembled a kind of like evangelist fraud Voltron. The pair dropped out of Discount Bible College to go on the road as, and this is a quote from Wikipedia, itinerant evangelists.
Well, because let's face it, a degree from North Central Bible University is exactly as valuable as not a degree from North Central Bible University. So yeah, smart decision.
In those early days, they had to threaten people with hell and take their money door to door. It took hours to do that.
By 1966, the duo were working for Pat Robertson, a very credible man, who at 73 once put out a video claiming that he could leg press 2,000 pounds.
What?
He
did.
This has nothing to do with the Jim Bakker story. I only include this detail because it is so wonderfully, stupidly absurd that everybody needs to know this. To give you a sense of how much that did not happen. Because it didn't happen. The Florida State University leg press record the same year for its football players was 665 pounds. A regular commercial leg press machine like at a gym, you can't even put 2,000 pounds on them.
Because
No, you
why
cannot.
would
You
you?
can't.
Yes.
It's not a pounds you can add to it. But somehow a geriatric Pat Robertson was pumping iron with Jesus, and he could also probably totally throw a football over those mountains.
It's such an obvious lie. Why would you say that? That's a small car. Right. He said he could power lift a car with his 73-year-old legs.
I love it.
Okay, but to be fair, moving a car with your legs was way more common when Pat Robertson was growing up back in Bedrock. That's how they just how they did it.
I got around. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, but before you move on, Noah, Heath, and I will literally explode if we don't get to do a quick lightning round.
No,
on
yeah,
Pat
I understand.
Robertson.
That makes sense.
Hit it!
How did that get into the studio?
I installed it while you were sleeping, Cecil. Pat Robertson, go!
Called Scotland a dark land overrun by gays.
Said gay people wear needle rings to give straight people AIDS.
Said outer space is full of gaseous balls.
Said people with too much plastic surgery got the eyes like they're Oriental.
That's real. Also, told a viewer the towels in Kenya have AIDS. The towels.
I remember that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you. Sorry, needed
I know. You had to get out of your system. I get it.
And he's melty. He's melty. It looks like he's melting
And
all the
space
time.
is full of gaseous balls. I just like hearing Pat say it. That's all.
Anyway, Tammy and Jim started their work with jowly liar Pat Robertson at Pat's Christian Broadcasting Network, CBN.
I call him Patty Melts. It's all the time.
100%.
Patty Melts is great.
Patty Melts is brilliant.
They were doing a Christian puppet show for kids called Come On Over.
Oh, God.
Okay, I did try to find some footage of this, and I only saw...
Please say his penis wasn't.
Yeah, I was
was
like, come
not,
on,
thank
what?
God.
Come on,
Please.
It may have been less creepy if it were, Cecil. I will say, I can only find it was sort of nestled in videos of other things. I need you to imagine a puppet show on a low-budget TV channel, and then I just need you to know in the very bottom of your heart that you are underestimating how bad and creepy and weird this puppet show was. I don't care what you can imagine.
Right.
Yep.
But since Christian entertainment is the very lowest possible bar to slither over, the show was an inexplicable success, and Jim was given his own primetime show, the 700 Club. The 700 Club quickly became the flagship of CBN. Yet, for reasons, Jim and Tammy left CBN and joined Trinity Broadcasting Network. This, too, not much of a match made in heaven. 8 months later, the Bakkers left TBN when a rift between Jim and station owner Paul Crouch developed.
That's interesting. I had no idea Pat wasn't the original host of 700 Club. I always thought the name of it was like a hat tip to Pat's age. I didn't.
Well, no, it's named after the 700 financial supporters Robertson was able to rope in during his seminal 1966 telethon to keep the network afloat. And though Bakker was the first permanent host, the show had been on for 6 years by the time he joined the... Jesus Christ, what have I done with my life? Why do I know this shit?
Oh, God.
We used to have magic powers. Remember that? That was fun.
So Jim and Tammy moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And in 1976, the pair realized that what the world really needed was more late night talk shows. And so they started the PTL Club. PTL, by the way, stands for Praise the Lord.
Oh, Jesus.
So their show was the Praise the Lord Club. Sounds weird. Most people just called it the Jim and Tammy Show, which is way more accurate than PTL, since this really marked the beginning of the aggressive personal branding that would launch the Bakkers into relative stardom. They launched the PTL satellite network, and soon the PTL Club was airing at affiliates all across the country.
Yeah, and if you're wondering how on earth anyone based a TV show on these monsters' personalities, I'll remind you that this was a time when we as a nation thought that David Letterman was charming. So easier
true.
than you think.
We wrote the
It's
rules.
true.
of
Come on,
late
he moves
night.
his tie around.
Gets really close to, like, way
After jokes.
closer to the camera than there's any reason for him to be. It's
then
not even,
further,
it's not
and
even
then
lit
closer.
all the way up there. It's crazy. It's just
Classic.
breaks the fourth wall.
Distances.
Stupid human tricks.
And PTL was fucking huge. Jim and Tammy and the whole PTL shtick became absolutely massive. So massive, in fact, that they couldn't be confined just to television. So they launched a theme park in South Carolina called Heritage USA. Heritage USA was a success on a level that should absolutely boggle your mind.
But Tom, any level of success these people had boggles my
Well,
mind.
yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
it just
That's
boggles.
right.
That's
That's
fair.
true. That's, yeah. Okay, I'm just quoting in bulk here from Wikipedia. The facilities included the 501-room Heritage Grand Hotel, the attraction Main Street USA. That's just a Main Street, by the way,
That's
indoors.
such a sad attraction
So
name.
stupid.
What?
An indoor shopping complex, the Heritage Village Church, upper room, don't know what that is, a 400-unit campground,
Holy what?
the Jerusalem Amphitheater, conference facilities, King's Castle, a skating rink, prayer and counseling services, cable television production studios, Bible and evangelism school, visitor retreat housing, staff and volunteer housing, timeshares, and the Heritage Island Water Park and recreational facilities. The only larger and more well-attended theme parks were Disney World and Disneyland in
Shut
that
the
order.
fuck up.
Heritage USA employed 2,500 people. It earned $126 million a year, and it hosted over 4.8 million visitors a year.
Okay, sorry. Just circling back. Did you say it has prayer and counseling services? That was what they offered?
Yep.
what the fuck is a prayer service? You get help with that? You're just a guy in a room with advice about your wishing? And yes.
It's always so awkward when you're done. Like, do you keep your wishes in your room and call them? Do you leave it outside the door? Next day it's still there. Now what do you do, right?
Can you just pray for good prayers and then skip the service?
You know, Tom, you said there's a 400-unit campground here. Could you imagine camping and being as fucking dirty as possible from camping because camping sucks, and then having to go to church like that?
Well, that's why they put in the water part to wash you off.
God damn.
Yeah, just rinse you off in the piss water of those
nasty.
water parks. So things were going far better for Jim and Tammy than they had any right to expect, and certainly better than they deserved, but it couldn't possibly last because the whole thing was built on a pyramid of scams layered in and among swindles and rackets. Viewers of PTL were donating as much as $1 million a week, and the money and the fame was too tempting for the morally bankrupt Jim Bakker. Rather routinely, the Bakkers would take to the air and beg and plead, cajole and promise in order to get viewers and believers to fork over their hard-earned money to the Bakker ministry. And these crass pleas eventually caught the attention of the FCC. In 1979, the FCC launched an investigation into the misuse of these funds and found that funds which were allegedly being raised for overseas religious missionary work were actually being used to expand their cash cow, Heritage USA. That same investigation also revealed that some of PTL's fundraising funds were raised not for the church, but for the Bakkers, who decided to just keep some of that money for themselves.
Sure. God, the only way this could be more insulting is if they powered the water slides at Heritage USA with the tears of the neglected missionary. Hold them up there and squeeze the tears out of them. You know?
I feel like there's a business for there. You could charge some of their audience would have been like, oh,
I can still go down the slide with an erection, right?
Mostly orphans? Great.
Crazily, however, this would not be the end of Jim Bakker. The FCC voted 4-3 not to pursue the investigation. Jim Bakker then sold the only TV station that he owned, and since he now no longer owned a TV station, the FCC no longer had any power to regulate the Bakkers. The Justice Department took over the investigation, but they too declined to press charges. The media attention from the investigation and scandal actually only added to Jim's coffers. The Bakkers took to the air to do what they do best. They leveraged the investigation as a government witch hunt, and once again, they picked the pockets of the faithful.
Okay, it's really hard to have sympathy for the people that donated to the Bakkers. Jim and Tammy look like undead Cabbage Patch Kids. What the fuck is going on in your life? When you get asked for money by undead Cabbage Patch Kids, you say no. That's just basic stuff.
Okay, first, fuck whoever put the picture of these people in the notes.
Sorry about that.
Fuck you. And if you told me one or both of these people were a ventriloquist dummy, I would 100% believe you.
Yeah, I don't know why Hollywood sprung for Andrew Garfield. They could have gotten the corpse of Rick Moranis for so much cheaper.
It's so true.
Rick Moranis isn't dead, Eli. He's just Canadian.
That's what they could have killed Rick Moranis for less money.
In 1985, the IRS investigated the Bakker ministry and found that $1.3 million of funds raised by the Bakkers for church stuff was instead stolen and used by Jim and Tammy for personal shit. The IRS saw through the thin veneer of God talking and declared the whole thing a scam, and they recommended that the church be stripped of its tax-exempt status. Again, however, nothing happened. This isn't surprising, though, since the Reagan administration was openly reluctant to prosecute and shut down popular television evangelists and upset his religious base. Once again, the Bakkers were off the hook, but their winning streak wouldn't last forever.
Right. Now, that would be the story of all the other churches.
Yep.
It takes a lot, Noah. In 1987, the scandal that would bring down the Bakkers broke. And stop me if this sounds at all familiar. Jim Bakker, through an emissary, paid $279,000 to buy the silence of Jessica Hahn and protect his reputation.
Huh.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Sounds like someone... Yeah.
Sounds like Jim overpaid.
And that's some fucking 1987
I
dollars,
know.
dude.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Trump got the art of the deal on that one.
All right, here I really do want to make sure that I'm very clear. Jim Bakker, along with PTL co-host John Wesley Fletcher, drugged and raped Jessica Hahn, a woman who worked for PTL. There's a lot of bullshit floating around on this, and it's frequently phrased inaccurately as a sex scandal. But these guys raped this woman and then tried to cover up their crime with money. This crime was uncovered by Charles Shepard, a reporter for the Charlotte Observer, who discovered the payoff to Hahn when he discovered that Bakker kept 2 sets of books for the ministry. Everything went tits up bonkers for the Bakkers once the Hahn rape was uncovered. Allegations of sexual abuse of another man was uncovered, and rival televangelists took to the Larry King Show to air more dirt on the sexual misdeeds of Jim Bakker. Bakker resigned from PTL, but not before handpicking his successor in Jerry Falwell. Bakker chose Falwell because he believed that Falwell was loyal and because he feared rival evangelist Jimmy Swaggart. Swaggart had initiated internal investigations into Bakker's sexual improprieties, and Bakker was afraid Swaggart was trying to steal his church scam out from underneath him. Now, none of the lunch table drama bullshit would matter. As more and more allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced, Falwell was under intense pressure to repudiate Jim Bakker, and he eventually barred Jim Bakker from returning to PTL. The scandal caused a crisis of fundraising faith in the flock, so Falwell took to TV, and he promised that viewers would just send him the $20 million they needed to keep their weird Jesus amusement park going, and he would take a ride down the biggest water slide of the park wearing his favorite suit.
What?
Yep.
What? Okay. The line in the sand for a big chunk of their audience is fascinating here. So they're just like, yeah, slide, water park, that sounds fun, but hold on. Would it be like formal wear? And it was like, suit. Yep.
Well, it fucking worked. Sympathetic viewers shit money at the beleaguered PTL club, and they raised the money, and Jerry Falwell took a trip down a water slide in his favorite suit.
Okay, I'm trying to think of a thing I would not do on a water slide for $20 million. I can't think of it.
I mean, you paid to get kicked in the stomach at the end of a water slide so hard that you shat yourself and vomited at the same time. So
yeah. Thank you for that reminder. That is
sorry.
something that happened in my
I
life.
have to mention that every 5 episodes. It's in my contract.
It's in your contract. Who? With who? What?
Myself.
Okay. Action Park was fun, except for that. It was a really fun day. Otherwise, got a lot of pee on myself. That was the highlight compared.
So Jim Bakker was out of the church, and all would soon be well with the evangelist scammunity, except that it wouldn't, because a bankruptcy judge called bullshit on the whole thing, and Falwell was forced to resign as well. The PTL ministry and Heritage USA was all going down in flames, and Falwell called out Jim Bakker as, quote, a liar, an embezzler, a sexual deviant, and the greatest scab and cancer on the face of Christianity in 2,000 years of church history.
Yikes.
I feel like scabs should be mad about that quote.
And that, I have to say, is a pretty hefty insult when you consider the breadth and depth of the many scabs and cancers on the face of Christianity that they have still managed to venerate.
Well, to be fair, Falwell's son was barely out of law school at this point, hadn't really gotten his legs under him. So, all right. Well, tell you what, we got a scab going here. We're going to pause while the bleeding stopped, but we'll be back to pick at it after a little apropos of nothing.
I just don't think so many people are invested in the opening pop culture reference that if we skip it in an intro, we have to introduce it then into the apropos of
See,
nothing.
that's
skit.
where I disagree with you.
Game of Thrones.
What?
Nothing.
And here come our first guest now. Welcome to the NEPH.
Oh, what's the NEPH?
It's the Noah and Eli Prayer Hour, y'all. Our first televangelical spin-off show. You're just in time for the Burn Your Money Hour.
I don't know, guys. I mean, Noah's definitely our leatheriest white guy, but Eli is not a lady.
But we're not using Eli. We wrapped his tummy in duct tape and put lipstick on it.
Wow, that actually looks just like her.
Guys, televangelists are literally the worst kind of con person there is. They offer nothing. They prey on the old and feeble. They take comfort and tradition and big questions about the universe and turn it into a way to pick somebody's pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how much did you guys raise anyway?
$11 million.
So the NEPH, you said?
I surely do.
Try to be mad on a jet. Try.
And we're back. Who can say for how long? But we're still doing honesty and skepticism for right now, anyway.
TikTok, Noah, TikTok.
Yeah, right. So when we left off, Bakker was an exposed fraud, rapist, embezzler, and liar. Love it if the story was over at that point, but we all know it isn't. So, Tom, where does Jim go from here?
All right, so Bakker's been kicked out of his church, and PTL was imploding. The investigative reporting from the Charlotte Observer revealed even more misdeeds. The Bakker bullshit factory was selling guaranteed 4-day yearly lifetime vacations at their Heritage USA theme park. These memberships, they were not cheap, but they sold like crazy. Tens of thousands of them, in fact, were sold. This is a problem when you have a 500-room hotel.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
The math doesn't work. You can't make that
quick
math.
Yep.
Bakker then went on to sell exclusive partnerships in the hotel venture. Between all the scams, Bakker raised more than twice what was needed for the actual project. So Jim Bakker just put $3.4 million of the leftover dollars in his pocket and walked away whistling.
Actually, similar business model for Crowd Health right now in 2021.
Heath, this is a get ahead. There's no way that company exists anymore. Come on.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Finally, after all the scams and frauds, a grand jury was convened. The probe lasted 16 months, after which Bakker was indicted in 1988 on 8 counts of mail fraud, 15 counts of wire fraud, and 1 count of conspiracy. The next year, a jury found Bakker guilty on all 24 counts, and a federal judge sentenced Jim Bakker to 45 years in prison and levied a $500,000 fine. Justice seemed like it was served when Bakker was remanded into federal custody.
I don't know. Having an excuse not to fuck Tammy Faye anymore feels more like parole to me. But
Jesus Christ.
I find her
like-
attractive.
45 years is great and all, but I kind of need the fine to be bigger.
Yeah, right,
Yeah, for the 3.4 million.
Hey, pay
All
that
right.
4 times over and have some cash in
How did
pocket.
they land on that fine? Yes, that's
Right?
ridiculous.
No idea. Now, unfortunately, Bakker's crime struck a chord with the sentencing judge, who said, quote, "Those of us who do have a religion are sick of being saps from money-grubbing preachers and priests," end quote. This statement would be leveraged at appeal by Bakker's legal team, and while the conviction was upheld, the sentencing was reduced from 45 years down to 8, citing the judge's injection of his own religious beliefs into the original sentencing. Jim would serve almost 5 years of his 8-year sentence before being let out on parole, though he still owed $6 million to the IRS on release.
The judge mentions his own religion and they give him a fucking lighter sentence because of it. Find a fucking atheist next time.
Right.
Find me
Right.
next time.
between this and Masterpiece Cake Shop, the law has a lot more precedent for I don't care for your tone than I'm comfortable with. Kidding, right?
In 2003, Bakker returned to what he knew: religious televangelist grifting. Divorced now from Tammy and remarried to Lori Bakker, Jim unveiled The Jim Bakker Show, broadcasting out of Branson, Missouri. Crazily, despite being a convicted fraud and a rapist, The Jim Bakker Show has been carried on CTN, Daystar, Folk TV, Grace Network, GEB America, Hope TV, Impact Network, WGN, WHT, TCT Network, The Word Network, Uplift TV, and Z Living Networks. Now, most
Grace Network was just in Canada, as
Yeah,
far
let's
as I know.
not sully
I
the
don't
good
think it
name
was-
of Grace Network.
Grace Network USA.
Now, most of those are little bullshit networks, and the majority of his viewership comes still from people slowly rotting in their armchairs and getting his bullshit beamed to them by satellite, but he still has viewers. Like, out loud, Bakker has condemned prosperity gospel theology, but in reality, his new grift is just a mix of prosperity gospel and apocalypticism, which is a long word that means scaring people into buying MREs and hand crank radios for 10 times the actual cost.
Yeah, MRE, by the way, stands for Meals Ready to Eat. And as at least 3 of us on this podcast can attest to, no, the fuck they're not.
I kind of like the pizza. Kind of like the pizza.
No, you didn't.
You're from New York.
I gotta be honest, I kind of liked a few of the things. we ate a bunch of it. Like, a little
Keith
bit was good.
continued to eat the MRE after the live stream was over.
Yeah, he did. The mac and cheese,
You finished
especially.
food.
Yeah.
I was clean plate club.
That-
Also, importantly, can you shit into a normal MRE when you're done? Can you make
You
a
can
table
shit
out of your
into
shit
anything.
bucket? Can you have a table with shit buckets holding it up? Think about it, Tom. Just think about it.
I think you're supposed to empty those, not make furniture.
Oh, gosh.
Empty them first.
You're covering it with a
It's
tabletop.
more
You can't
stable.
smell it.
That's true. No, it's that.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
what
not
I
a
was
big
thinking.
deal.
I'm
It's not a
obviously
big
the
deal.
wrong.
You're weird.
Yeah,
That
crazy.
table's just going to
You're gonna
fall
have
right
to-
over.
Yeah.
You're going to have to let the gas escape periodically,
You gotta-
or it's just going to pop that lid right off.
You gotta conserve energy,
poke
Tom.
holes.
You're on MREs now. You can't just go willy-nilly emptying.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Jesus.
That's the thing I'm asking myself right now. What were you thinking, Tom?
So if you've got a perforated tabletop in your apocalypse bunker, this is the perfect thing to hold up.
Now, if you're going to leverage the apocalypse, you have to have a direct line to the genocidal musings of the big man in the clouds. So, of course, now Bakker is a prophet and not just a preacher. Of course, he has also been wrong every time he's predicted or prophesied anything because he's a fucking liar and a cheat.
Huh.
He predicted that Trump would win the 2020 presidential election. He predicted a civil war between Christians and just some other people, I guess. That the opponents were not clear.
Yeah, after January 6th, I'm going to allow that one, Tom.
Okay.
That one.
All right.
I'm gonna
Yes.
keep that one.
Democracy?
Yeah.
Okay. He says that he knew about 9/11 in 1999, but he didn't mention it to anyone until after 9/11,
Like you do.
2001.
Like you do.
It slipped his mind.
Yeah.
He stated that in
Space-time
a,
continuum. You don't want to spoil it, obviously.
he stated that in a dream, quote, God came to him wearing a camouflage hunting vest, an AR-15 rifle strapped to his back, and that God supported Trump's plan to arm teachers. It's a
Love that.
Jesus Christ.
And a tap-out shirt.
There's 100 others. And nearly all of these doomsday predictions come right before, during, and around his pitches to sell big 5-gallon buckets of dried food you can rehydrate into diarrheal-like consistency to survive Armageddon without missing a single helping of your fucking biscuits and gravy.
Okay, look, apocalypse preppers never make any sense no matter what. But it especially doesn't make sense if you're expecting the Christian apocalypse. You are going to get
Yeah, right.
poofed up to heaven. Who are you collecting the buckets for?
And of course, when COVID hit, Bakker saw nothing but opportunity there too. Not opportunity to help people, opportunity to enrich himself on the fear of others. Very quickly, and really at the height of the initial fear and uncertainty when people were their most vulnerable, Jim Bakker began touting on this stupid fucking show a miracle cure for COVID and just about anything that might ail you. Colloidal silver. Colloidal silver is basically silver mixed in a solution, often saline. The FDA has long said that colloidal silver has no medical uses. But since this is America, it's still allowed to be marketed and sold as a dietary supplement. It's fucking absolute nonsense. It does nothing, can turn your skin blue, and Jim Bakker was selling it as a magic anti-COVID potion. Once again, government regulators, this time the FTC and the FDA, had to step in and stop him from taking advantage of people's fear to line his personal fucking pockets.
Yes, in a very harshly worded letter, they explained you can only imply it cures COVID.
That's true.
Right.
You can't say
Exactly.
it out. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, but so now I shit you not, sells people a plant from which they can make their own cure for COVID.
Oh my God.
Because apparently saying that is legal.
It's one more degree of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
happening?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I also happen to see that he's now selling prosperity blankets. It's a
Yeah,
blanket
the miracle
for like
blanket.
$1,000. It's like $1,000 blanket that you
Jesus
buy.
fucking
And like you
Put your-
cuddle
put
fuck
it
it or
on your
whatever,
bills.
and then you
Put it
get
on your bills.
money.
You pay your bills with the $1,000 product that they'll sell you.
Unreal. Now, Jim Bakker did have a stroke, and unfortunately, it didn't kill him.
Aw.
And the son of a bitch is still broadcasting his bullshit. He's still leveraging fear of the unknown. He's still abusing the misplaced trust people put in religious leaders to fatten his personal bank accounts.
It's not even a real stroke. He doesn't sound funny like my dad. Like none of that. It's just bullshit. It's a bullshit stroke. If you're gonna have aphasia, if you're gonna have a stroke, have aphasia.
Thank you.
Go all the way, damn it.
Jim Bakker is undoubtedly a horrible human being, but he is by no means alone. At some point, Bakker will die and his personal grift will end, and that will be a day worth celebrating. But if we're not careful and we don't get our shit together, there'll be an endless parade of Jim Bakkers hiding behind tailored suits and fluorescent white teeth, guiding our hands right into our pants to help us pick our own pockets.
All right, well, rather than just naming them, I guess, we'll move on to this part where you summarize what you've learned in one sentence. What would that be, Tom?
I should have been a religious grifter.
Two votes.
No.
And I should have been your hype man.
Oh,
God damn it.
Dude, we would crush that
damn
shit. Crush it.
All right, are you ready
Everyone's
for
a
the quiz?
Christian.
Let's do it.
All right, Tom, which of the following is the best varietal from Jim Bakker's freeze-dried wine store? Is it A, Shirazin bags, B, Tangiovese powdered drink, and Sangiovese wine, or C, Ben Shapino?
Ben Shapino. Ben,
Mwah.
you know what?
Mwah.
I like the Ben Shapino, but it's a little dry.
You get it.
Phenomenal.
Oh.
End the
So
show,
good.
Cecil. End it. Just
So
cut off
good.
the podcast.
So good. Yeah, I know. Like we're gonna fail here, but we gotta go.
That's my answer, I guess.
Oh, that was correct. That was 100% correct.
Nailed it. I thought so.
All right, Tom, what would be the funniest way for Jim Bakker to die? Cecil, I checked with my lawyer. This is totally legal.
All right.
A, give him poison whose antidote is colloidal silver. B, a lady-faced crown-wearing horse locust injury. C, kick to death at the bottom of a water slide by Heath in a suit.
I love it.
I'm going to stop you right there. It's C, Tom. It's C.
It is C, because I want to see him shit and puke himself to
man.
death.
Right.
We sure
No,
do.
exactly.
We sure do.
Tom, I feel terrible having to go after both of these, but I gotta go. So what's the name of Jim Bakker's apocalypse shit bucket movie?
Okay.
A, Sewage of Tomorrow. B,
Fantastic.
Flush Gordon. C, Turd Box. D, Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Or E, 28 Cheeks Later.
Oh, all right. Turd box, great concept, poor execution. Invasion of the Potty Snatchers.
No, I'm sorry. It was Sewage of Tomorrow.
Oh, I thought I had it.
And
but you tricked me.
I'm not sure who I'm going to pick. I'll make it a surprise for next week. We'll just make it a surprise.
All right.
Rebel,
All right.
rebel,
Well,
rebel,
for
rebel.
Cecil, Eli, Heath, and Tom, I'm Noah. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, somebody will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can hear more from Tom and Cecil on Cognitive Dissonance, more of Heath and me on Scathing Atheist, God Awful Movies, The Skeptocrat, and D&D Minus, and more of Eli on Cecil Sports, loudly explaining the rules of Cosmic Encounter through the mail slot. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod, or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/get-started. That's GREENLIGHT.com/get started.